everyone and welcome to the Formula E Pit Lane Preview Show. My name's Derin and Saunders, alongside me is Saunders CV, and guys, this is a huge one. I mean, just take a look at where we are right now. We're coming to you from the Olympic Stadium in Seoul, where this weekend, after 2 races, we're going to be crowning our world champion at the 2022 Hannah Banks Seoul E3. Saunders, I literally can't get over it. End of the season, I'm buzzing.
It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in one of the coolest cities in the world to begin with. We've got a really spicy championship where it's very close at the top. Vandoorne enters with a bit of a points lead, 36, but we've seen bigger things happen in Formula E. We've seen bigger changes, bigger drama. And Formula E always does that at the end of a season. I think we've learned over the years. But you know, mathematically, there are still 4 drivers in with contention, including Vandoorne. So there's still a lot that can happen. It's not over yet, guys, is what I'm trying to say.
It's not over yet. Well, coming up on the show, we'll be hearing from Saunders with your last race preview of the season.
Yeah.
Sad
Emotional,
times.
yeah.
Emotional. I also went out and about in Seoul yesterday and have given you a bit of a city guide, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, you did. And we're also going to be talking to Mercedes EQ driver Stoffel Vandoorne and Lucas de Grassi, ROKiT Venturi driver, about that teams and drivers world championship title.
Oh yeah, and then finally we've put your fan questions to some of the drivers on the grid, which we cannot wait to see what they have to say. But first up, here's Saunders with everything you need to know ahead of this weekend's racing.
And we go green in London.
Formula E's most exciting season yet has all been leading to this moment. The season finale in Seoul, where world championship titles are up for grabs. But which driver and team will leave as champions for the last time this season? It's time to find out. So heading into the final weekend, Mercedes EQ's Stoffel Vandoorne leads by 36 points. A healthy gap, but it's not all wrapped up yet.
There are 58 points up for grabs in Seoul, meaning mathematically there are still 4 drivers capable of winning the championship. Jean-Eric Vergne, the 4th of those drivers, only narrowly scraping himself into unlikely contention by a single point, after 4 races without scoring. Mitch Evans and Eduardo Mortara in 2nd and 3rd have their work cut out, given that they are more than a race win worth of points, 36, behind Vandoorne.
In the roller coaster that is a Formula E season, the twists and turns rain havoc on the leaderboard. Consistency is king, and this season it's Vandoorne that wears the crown.
Outside of Evans' 5th place finish in the first of the races, Vandoorne was the only real competitive threat in the top 4 in London. This has very much been the story of Vandoorne's whole campaign, capitalising on the mistakes of rivals and staying competitive when others are struggling. Let's not forget that he only has 1 win this season in Monaco, but the continued big point scoring and podiums have kept him in the fight. Only 1 non-scoring race all season and back-to-back top 4 finishes in the last 4 rounds. All that remains for him to do now is convert the string of results and performances into a world championship title.
Failing to capitalise effectively on the poor performances from drivers like Mortara and Vergne in the last few races means that Mitch Evans and Jaguar TCS Racing's title chances are slipping away. But there is hope.
The extra time DNF in London following Evans' most promising season yet may have cost them a shot at the championship by the same cruel fate and component issue that did the same thing last season.
And Evans doesn't move, and he's been hit. Mitch Evans has been hit by Eduardo Mortara.
Without the inverter breakdown, Evans was on track to minimise Vandoorne's lead to just 22 points going into Seoul, having climbed up 10 positions. The dip in 1-lap pace during qualifying once again left Evans with a lot of work to do during the race, pushing the car on the unforgiving, physically demanding London circuit. The only way Evans is going to keep this dream alive is to qualify well in both races in Seoul and outscore Vandoorne and Mortara by a decent margin. Only 5 points behind Evans is Eduardo Mortara with a remote title hope. The minimal points in New York and lack of points in London has not helped his chances, but a return to the calm and collected approach that has seen Mortara win 3 races this season is what's needed to get ahead of Evans and keep the pressure on Vandoorne.
In the Teams Championship, Mercedes EQ are in the perfect position to replicate that title win from last season. Stoffel Vandoorne's consistent points hauls, alongside Nick de Vries' 2 race wins, splattering of points and occasional podium, has made that possible.
The team's title is by no means wrapped up, but there's a reasonable, comfortable 36-point cushion for Mercedes EQ ahead of ROKiT Venturi Racing and DS Techeetah close behind. 11 points stand between second and third, a battle that will no doubt continue until the final checkered flag.
Once again, the championship is going to be decided on the final event of the season. But who will leave Seoul as World Championship title holder? Well, we'll find out this weekend. And you can head over to FIAFormulaE.com/watch to find out where you can watch the races and not miss any of the action as we wrap up Season 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship.
Wow, could this be the best season finale yet? What do you think?
It's setting up that way. Formula E has a little bit of a history of just having amazing end of seasons, you know, last few races. We've seen it before countless times, but especially with 2 drivers. Stoffel Vandoorne, season 6, his first win in Berlin. Lucas de Grassi as well, with that heroic championship win in season 3.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes EQ and ROKiT Venturi have just been so speedy this season, haven't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, they're basically driving the same car under the livery, right? It's that Mercedes powertrain that's been dominant, it's been quick, it's been very performant throughout the whole season. But now it comes to the important bit. Can that turn around and win World Championship titles, both drivers and teams, of which they're both in contention?
Yeah, well, I am going to ask you that question later, but we've not got to the predictions part of the show yet, so just hold on that thought. But we did in fact catch up with Lucas de Grassi and Stoffel Vandoorne to hear everything they have to say about this season.
Both championships, Mercedes on the lead. We are second on teams, but you have a big lead on the drivers. How do you take it?
You know, hopefully from the drivers, I personally want to win it. Obviously for the team, we want to win it as well, but you guys as well. And yeah, it's gonna be.
I think the team is a bit more open because the team have both drivers. You have
exactly.
I think I don't know 80 points.
There's still a lot of points to be scored for the team. So that one we definitely need you know, a bit of work. I'm sure you guys will
we'll push into the very end. But for the drivers, I think it's a big margin for a double header, especially like here, which is a track which is not that energy.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I still need to do the job. You know, I need to qualify the car in the front and then hopefully have 2 good races and then it should be fine. The weather is going to make it interesting, that's for sure. So hopefully I can just tick it off. But yeah, for the teams, we'll see. I mean.
But anyway, I think it has been a great season for Mercedes powertrain. If we come to the last race with both teams first and second.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
the Mercedes powertrain has done a big improvement from last year.
No, they have, and it's been a great era. It's their last race, so
unfortunately,
it will be. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we'll all miss them in some way.
They will come back. They will come back in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully in a few years they'll be back. But they've you know, given us a very competitive car, and yeah, it's a shame it's coming to an end, and I hope definitely one of us will win it.
Yeah, well, we'll push. We'll push into the very last lap for sure.
Gosh, I can't wait to see those guys out on the track here in Seoul. I mean, it's just such a cool city, isn't it, Saunders?
It is, and it's so nice to finally be here as well. It's a long time coming for Formula E, so to be here is amazing. I know I've got a hit list of things that I want to do before I leave. I haven't done any of them yet, but you have, I think.
I have indeed, yeah. Here are a few places to check out if you're ever in Seoul, presented by Saudia. So I'm here right now in Seoul, starting off our city guide with what locals refer to as the Seoul High Line, which you guys might remember from New York City. We went to the New York High Line. It's basically the same vibe. Now, this is an elevated overpass from the 1970s that in 2017 was converted into this beautiful public space. You get the views of Seoul behind us, lots of nature, and it's just a great spot to visit if you're ever in the city. So now I've made my way down to City Hall because just inside there is the world's largest indoor vertical garden. It's 7 stories tall, has over 65,000 plants, and is actually what's regulating the building's temperature and humidity, which I think is just so cool, especially being in an important building like the City Hall. We love to see it, but let's go and explore the rest of the city. Another fantastic urban renewal project here in the city is Chunggi-chun, which is a river that spans across 11 kilometres from east to west Seoul. Yet another great example of green spaces in the heart of the city. But now guys, let's go shopping. And where better to come to than Gwangjang Market? I've just arrived and I'm honestly sport for choice with how many food options there are here, from traditional Korean food to so much more. I'm loving life here. I'm gonna go check out all of the stalls. But yeah, those are all of the places that we'd recommend visiting in Seoul. But now it's time to go racing.
Well, that looked like fun.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Definitely got a few things to think about in my few days after the race here. I just hope that it doesn't rain.
I know, I mean, we have to talk about the weather. Even whilst filming this, we've got the umbrellas up and down. I mean, it is wet here in Korea. There's actually been some flooding that was happening a few days before, but the question is, what's gonna happen on the race days?
I mean, it's a massive equaliser, rain, for all motorsport, but in Formula E it really plays havoc with the racing. Like, the grip levels change, the cars become almost impossible to drive, and it comes later in the race. We've seen it in New York, it's even worse.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into predictions later. I don't want to talk too much about that right now, because you guys had questions for the drivers, and here's what you asked.
The first thing I'm going to do is...
Yeah, so I will start.
I know nothing. The first thing I'm going to do is, when I reach New Zealand, is probably go and meet my my new niece. My brother had a baby recently, so since I was last there, so I'll probably go back and meet her.
I think the biggest thing that I'll miss is probably just the people that I've worked with. There's some incredible talent in the paddock, you know, such great engineers, such clever people, and yeah, not working with them on a daily basis will be something that I miss. Favourite track is tough. There are a lot of good circuits that we go to in Formula E, all got a lot of unique characteristics. Yeah, probably Rome's up there because it's so mad with the undulation and the jumps. I actually enjoy Marrakesh quite a lot, quite a big fast open circuit, but yeah, New York's decent, Theria's got a nice fast flowing section. It's really tough to choose one, to be honest, but yeah, there'll probably be the four that are up there.
How much contact there is, I'd say. Yeah, I mean, corner one, race one, like I was smashed off and sandwiched between a couple of drivers in Saudi, and like since then it's like elbows out or you're going to the back. So.
Without any doubt, it would be season 4 when I won my race in Paris. You know, winning in the street of the capital where I was raised, with my family, everybody there, was something very special and very unique.
I think so, yeah. You know, I think we've really taken a step forward over the past 5 rounds. You know, obviously very difficult to repeat London here in Seoul, but nevertheless, I think we can try and maybe squeeze a podium out of it. It's a bit more difficult, probably doesn't suit us as well as London, but nevertheless, you know, we've got a great car, so I think me and Oliver can definitely try and score some big points.
And Saunders, for one final time this season, I'm going to ask you what your predictions are for this weekend, and of course, who do you think is going to be world champion?
I mean, Vandoorne has come into the weekend in the best possible position, like 36-point buffer. That's quite a lot, but not enough to make him invincible, especially if it rains. I know. That's always known as the great equaliser in motorsport, Formula E even more so, because it massively changes the grip, it massively changes how hard these cars are to drive, and they're already pretty hard as it is. So there's other areas to look at for excitement in this race. There's things that could happen. It might not be a walk in the park with Vandoorne. A lot has to go wrong, and rain could essentially make that go wrong.
Yeah. It's also a new track for all of the drivers on the grid, which is nice because it balances it out.
Absolutely, no one has raced here before. And sometimes that favours the veterans over newer drivers in Formula E. So we could see the likes of Grassi and Vandoorne do a little bit better than they have been doing. I mean, Grassi's off the back of a race win. So, you know, there's a lot we could potentially be seeing this weekend.
Yeah. Well, speaking of newer drivers on the grid, we have Norman Atto from Jaguar TCS Racing this weekend. He's replacing Sam, who obviously hurt his hand. Get well soon, Sam. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how he gets on.
Especially, I mean, I'm gutted for Sam to begin with, mainly because, you know, everyone likes to finish a season, you know, to round off a campaign, but also because this would have marked his 100th race
no.
in Formula E. And only him and Grassi can say that, racing in every single race, apart from these last two in Seoul, which is really sad. But there is a flip side, because Norman Nato won the final race of the season last year. So, I mean, it would be amazing if he just rocks up, jumps in the Jag and just like fires them up the team standing just by putting in a great performance. I mean, we'd love to see it, wouldn't we?
My God, that would be so epic. Well, I mean, we can only wait until this weekend to see what happens. So on that note, one final question from me. What else can we look out for this weekend?
Good question. I mean, what's interesting is that we are at the end of a season. We're at the end of an era of Gen 2 to Gen 3. Not every driver has a seat confirmed next year. Not every team has their lineup sorted. So drivers are literally racing for a seat in the championship. And the teams are racing for as high a position as they can finish possible. Every single position in the championship, more money. And that's really crucial next year into Gen 3. Extra resource goes a long way when you're trying to get used to a brand new car, new format, all of that. So yeah, the team's championship is going to be spicy, but I think there is definitely a few other drivers to keep an eye out on the grid.
Well, before we get too excited about Gen 3, let's reel it back because we've still got our last two races of Season 8 and the Gen 2 car. I can't wait for it. We hope that you guys are excited. Make sure to join us for the 2022 Hannah Bank Seoul E-Prix. And before that, we just wanted to say a big thank you for joining us throughout the season. It's been a fun ride, hasn't it?
It's been amazing. It's been great hosting this show with you. We've dove into some Formula E stuff. We've connected with the audience. It's been a great season. I mean, we're being very, very grateful.
We're very grateful indeed. So thank you all so much for watching. And for one final time, there's no turning back.
It all comes down to this. The showdown in Seoul. An electric sprint for the championship under Olympic lights. Every move, overtake and crash matters. No more talking, it's time for action. This is the season finale and there's no turning back.